So I ran across this really nasty story tonight, and I vaguely remember this other statistic page that came up a while back, and I think I skimmed through it, and I think I was just so pissed off I didn't really even specifically go through some of the things it said. I mean, I read it, but I didn't think about it, and so I'll bring up some of these things. So anyway, the story tonight, I'll put the links at the bottom, is titled Child Marriage Laws in California Act as Loopholes That Allow for Statutory Rape. And we should just say rape in general because there's lots of women that um, don't even consent to this. And the lady who wrote, her name is Sarah. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. But the situation in her thing has to do with religion and an abusive father. So basically, in this story, it's like it comes off as the father is the predator pimp type who kind of threw his daughter off to this male because it goes, I was coerced into spiritual marriage at the age of 15 through a strict religious upbringing, which it usually is. A lot of this stuff stems from that, and for some reason marriage seems to be the excuse to okay bad behaviors with humans, and they always use religious. So if we get married, if we marry them off, it will be okay in the eyes of the Lord. So we've already been through this whole spiritual nastiness from a long time ago, and watching church people pull this crap with people having sex outside of marriage and making up all kinds of different reasons of how it's okay for them to do that, and saying things like, in the eyes of the Lord, we're married. Which brings up another thing regarding the statistics, which I'll get back to in a second. So, where did I end? In a strict religious upbringing and through fear of a father who was physically and mentally abusive toward me for most of my childhood. So this is another piece of shit father who should be in jail. So, and then she says, my mother did not know I was being given away in a religious ceremony to a man twice my age. So now we have a predator. So we have a pedo guy and a pimp piece of shit father. So both of them should be in jail. Like, I don't care how long ago that was. Like, both of them should be in jail today. So that's another issue. And I'm sure there's some statute of limitations on that, which there should not be, because this is another crime that the minor may not understand that they're a victim until long time after. And even today, and I even have seen people who they will actually try to justify their current marriage because they were young minors and they got, well, one of them was a young minor and the other one wasn't, and saying, because we're together today, this is okay. No, it's not okay. And then I have a thing with that saying, if you guys were meant to be, then I think that if you waited until somebody was adult enough, the other person was adult enough until they were 18 to make that choice, you could have fucking waited. Because if you're still together today, you could have fucking waited to make sure, if you really cared about that person, which this shouldn't even be going on. But anyway, so it said if she had known, she would have reported my kidnapping and statutory rape. I don't even consider this statutory rape. When they use that term statutory rape, they try to use it in the term that the minor okayed having sex with the guy and it was somewhat mutual, but she's a minor, and so therefore they throw it under statutory rape. It's like total rape. If there's coercion in it, that's rape. I don't even like the word statutory rape. I don't like how they classify it because it almost like puts it as like not as bad. So, and that's the way that she's writing it out. I wouldn't have used the term, but somebody tried to use that term with me, and I was like, I didn't know my fucking rapist, dude. That shit was violent. I did not know the guy, and there was no consent, so I do not use that term in my rape. But anyway, and then it says, I met my husband to be the same day we were spiritually married. After the ceremony, he left the country with me, then at 16 and pregnant, and we returned to California and were legally married. They were not able to get driver's licenses and anything else, but she was able to be a wife of this predator who was twice her age. And I don't get it. But I always call California Little Thailand because it is very pro pedophile in every single which way within the laws. And this is a very good example of how that is. Um, and this isn't a case where somebody's like 16 or 17 and their boyfriend's 19. I am not touching that. That is a gray area. This is very, very crystal clear of a fucking pedo, and they're fucking going after kids. And so here we have a good example of this, and it gets worse, and not even just in California. California is bad on all levels, but it gets worse when you get into other states where they actually legalize it at 16, but these guys are actually going for them when they're like 13 and 14 and waiting till they're 16 to go get married. And so they're allowing these like really old motherfuckers that are preying on kids to do that. But yet they somehow think that and it should be illegal, child porn, totally. But they somehow think that child porn pictures is far worse than some pedophile coming after your kid and then getting them pregnant and marrying. That's okay, as long as you do that. But you can't take pictures of your wife. I'm like, did nobody sit down and actually think this through? You guys sound like a bunch of retards. And there's actually some progressives that were trying to lower the age. I'm like, do you know what you're saying? You're actually trying to remove the power from that minor. From that minor, you're trying to remove the power of being protected by laws. That is fucking retarded. Like, I cannot get past that. And so, let's continue with this. So it says the legal age giving sexual consent in California is 18, which I think is pretty damn accurate, and that needs to stay. But they don't really go by this. This is the kind of the joke of this. It says, yet the marriage exception laws in the state of California, see, this is where there's exceptions, allow minors to be married with no minimum age. So I could be 10 and my mom's trying to fucking pawn me off to some piece of shit who's like 50 years old. So my parents can pimp me off as long as we all consent to it. I can't consent. I'm a minor. So even if your parents consent, I can't consent. I'm a minor. Even if I did consent, I'm still not consenting as an adult. So nobody else should be making that. Even your parents should not be making that decision for you in this case. Not at all. And so you cannot form that much information in your head to understand what the fuck you're doing at that age. I don't care what anybody says. I didn't know shit at fucking 14. I didn't know shit at 16. I didn't know shit at... I barely knew shit at 18. I fucking was barely finding my way at 21. I think I started getting my shit together around that age. No. And I was living on my own very young, so it took me a little while to figure out things. So, let's see. It says underage marriage affects all religions and backgrounds, and it thrives in the United States because many states, including California, have exceptions written in their marriage laws for minors to be married with parental consent. Fuck your parents, dude. Your parents, like, if you have terrible parents, you cannot let your parents run amok. They're supposed to be protecting you from pedophiles. They're supposed to be protecting you from predators. They're supposed to be protecting you to make sure you have a good future. They're not supposed to be pawning you off to get married when you're fucking a minor. That's insane. But see, this is the thing, and I brought this up a long time ago, and it doesn't get a lot of attention. This state is very pro-pedo. Very pro-pedo. But actually, Florida did something worse, which really pissed me off the way that they have it written. So we'll see this in a second. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say on what was written here. I feel so bad for this lady. So, yeah, it says the religion group my dad was a part of coerced girls into get married at young ages. The youngest girl I knew who was forced into marriage was 14, and she was forced to marry after being raped. So she was forced to rape probably her rapist. It does, the way it's written, it's like you can't tell. So she was forced to marry after being raped, but it doesn't say was she forced to marry her rapist or was she forced to marry someone else. I'm assuming she was forced to marry her rapist. And it says typically a younger virgin girl was wed to an older man, and this group was not in another country. It was based in the Bay Area. And I had a lot of family in the Bay Area. Um they didn't do this to me, thank God. Um So they're asking, why are the laws in the state of California not doing more to protect minors? The underage exceptions written into the California marriage laws must be done away with completely to prevent parental coercion and sexual abuse of minors. Nobody should be getting married as a minor. Like, nobody. Like, there's no reason under the sun. In fact, even as an adult, like, you kind of should start questioning, like, like, people just get married for no reason. It's like, and you haven't even been with the guy long enough to know if this is who you fucking want to be with. If you're like 14, I mean, wouldn't you want to be with them for like quite a few years before you make a decision like that and not have your fucking parents make it for you? Fuck them. Okay, so that's that. Now we're gonna go back to the statistical thing on this, where some of that came from, which was on Pew Research Center. It says child marriage is rare in the U.S. That's not true. That's not true. Though this varies by state. Now, this is why I'm going to say it's not true. If we're talking about... Now, these are the statistics that they have on record. So we're going to say these are the statistics that they have on record. This does not include religious sects and other fucking weirdos that actually don't go and legally do the marriage. They will live like they are married in the eyes of the Lord, or the religious crap that they do, and they force their kids off to be with these men. That's why when I was reading some of these statistics, I'm like, well, this doesn't really make a lot of sense here, to have it where Utah is terrible. Utah is very terrible. They come close to us, if not worse in some ways. But I would say we're pretty much in a close tie as far as like the pro-rape pedo crap. But if you look at the map where it shows everything, it's trying to say Alaska's at 1.8, and it's like almost every woman in Alaska's been raped. So you're going to tell me that the young girls were not ever forced to live with the rapist or anything like that? They may not have legally gone down and actually tried to do paperwork, because I don't think a lot of people would have the balls to fucking try and do that, because I think technically I wouldn't even think that that would be legal. So I'm trying to think that a lot of people would not actually go in to go do paperwork for that. They would just force their kid to go be with the motherfucker, you know what I mean? So, and hopefully nobody gets on me for my language, because I have people all the time that's like, well, I cannot talk to you when you cuss. You're gonna have to fucking deal with it, because that's how I talk. And mostly when I'm so passionately pissed off at this stuff, because it's so fucking sexist. It is so sexist. I was just reading another thing from, it said back in Rome. I just posted it too, and I don't have it in front of me, but it used to be they would allow it, the legal age for the girls to be 12 years old and the boys can be 14. I'm like, that's nice that they made the girls really young. And I was like, that must be where they got the whole women mature faster than boys. Oh yeah, so they figured at 12 that's when women were maturing. No, I actually did when I was 10. That's fucking disgusting, dude. That is fucking disgusting. Like, I don't know what that magical age of 12 is. My mom didn't even develop until she was 17. 17, and some other people too, a lot later. There's no set age for that. When they're talking about women getting their periods and stuff, we had this really disgusting conversation on Twitter a long time ago with a bunch of pedos, these pro-pedo guys. Fucking disgusting. This conversation just, like, made my skin crawl, because I'm a victim, as a minor. So it's just like, it's like, where are you getting it? I don't even know. There's something fucked up all over. So, okay, so then you go and you look at this, let me find it. for a second. This thing in Florida. This thing in Florida just did it for me, because it says a handful of states allow minors to marry if one partner is pregnant. Well, you know the male isn't going to get pregnant, right? It would be the girl, right? Yes. So if the partner is pregnant, and you can get pregnant at any age, like even as young as I think even 9 or 8, like I would have to search like the youngest girl, like how young a girl, one of the earliest pregnancies. I'm trying to think right off the top of my head of what the youngest I've read before. It might have even been 8. You can get pregnant at any time once your body starts changing like that. And so it says, so just keep that in mind. We'll use the age of 9. We'll be safe and say the age of 9, because that's a pretty young age, and I started around 9 or 10. I was really young, so we'll use that age. Keep that in mind. It says, or has recently given birth, right? And I just heard another story of this girl that she got pregnant when she was 11 years old. Okay, so just keep this in mind. So it says, for example, in Florida, judges may issue licenses without an age minimum if one of the parties to the marriage is pregnant. Who would that be? That would be the girl. So basically the law is sexist, and it says that fucking little young girls can be forced to be married to some old motherfucker that your parents signed them off to, but only the girl has no age minimum. Only the girl has no fucking age minimum. No one gives a fuck. That is the most sexist, fucking disgusting law I've ever read. That is sick. So, just to keep this in mind, I have brought this up before. There are many people that try to back up saying that we're okay with this type of thing. No. If you're a minor, you do not have... You are making a choice for me, for my future, when I can't even consent on my own to be with some piece of shit fucking pedo. And even if it's some guy who's like 20 and I'm 13, I do not know what the fuck is going on. This is wrong. This is so wrong. So, I mean, pretty much all of California, we already know California is a pedo state. We don't even need to get into that. There's so many, like even right now, they haven't done shit. Even though they're saying that they dropped the SOL for the rape victims, they didn't do shit for my case. They didn't do shit for my case. They still have not fixed my rape report. I mean, we haven't even gotten past that part, right? So they can't even do that right. So we got that problem. And then nonetheless, they didn't fix anything to make it where I can get justice like anybody else. I'm supposed to have the same rights as every fucking other American here, which I do not have. And I can do tons and tons and tons of videos on this, which I probably will when I feel like the need to rant again. I do have some more about my jobs and stuff like that, the major problems with that, and how people go, oh, you have the same opportunities as everybody else. No, I don't. I have maybe about 50%. 50 fucking percent. It's going to be a fucking hellish nightmare for me to ever think of ever buying a house or doing anything normal that everybody else does. So I'm going to be done with that for now. But you guys should read this up. Read up on these statistics. These statistics are actually incorrect because it does not touch upon all the families and the people that do not go in to legalize the marriages. They just live as married, so they're still living with their perpetrators. They do not go in to go get a marriage license for that shit. People like Mormons and shit, no. No. There's a lot of stuff that's not being shown here, and they're saying it's rare. No, it's not rare. It's not rare. In fact, you could probably go back into your families and ask about your grandparents and stuff and how old were they and stuff, and you'll find some weird ass shit. Because even in my own family, my dad's mom was like 16 years old when she had my dad. Was somebody who, well, they made up a story. I don't know if they made up a story. They gave different stories of how this occurred. I don't want to get into it, but that is fucked up. So there was like a lot of things that happened. So if you go into your family's history and start asking your grandparents if they're still alive, and them, whatever, you'll find that parents hid that shit, And sometimes they did force them to go get married later, and they did all sorts of things and made them be with the guy who they got pregnant from. And then, oh, and then the other thing before I go, the other thing that really pisses me off is these like teen mom shows. It's like, could you be any more sexist? Why are we shaming women? Like, why do we keep doing this? It just pisses me off. It's like, okay, so Americans are too retarded to fucking raise their kids right. I mean, not raise their kids right. Excuse me, that's not what I meant. They're too fucking stupid to teach their kids at a young age about anything. They don't, because they're like, oh, religion. Because if I fucking tell them too early, then they're gonna go out and do it, which is bullshit. So then they go get pregnant or some bullshit like that because they don't, I don't know, they're just not educated enough, or there's some other things going on in their home. And then we go and do these shows and shit, and it's like teen mom. Let's shame them, being teen moms and stuff. That's horrible. Yeah, but look at the fucking laws. We can fucking legalize little kid marriages. And then you're gonna turn around and then fucking shame the women too on top of that. Where's the fucking loser show? Where's that? For the males. The loser rapey male shows. Where's that? I don't see that. I see tons of shit like still shaming women all the fucking time. Even I don't want to bring up Kim K. I don't watch their show. I don't do anything like that. But I was going through the comments section on one of the channels I follow, and some guy's going off like he's a jealous bitch. He's like, she's famous for porn. What? Are you jealous because you know that if you made a porn, nobody would fucking buy your shit? Nobody would, and you would never be able to make money off it. So I don't understand that. That's also a sexist comment. I'm tired of it. This country's a fucking piece of shit, dude. I'm done with my rant tonight.